I won't be able to set the course right because I am not in the power. So what I could do, I could provide certain elements to it so that the power and the rulers can really take those actions so that we achieve it. So what you have asked me to do is basically I would try to do some kind of justice to it. Bangladesh is a developing country. What is that Bangladesh wants to remove its tag as a least developed country. So that's the issue, meaning that we want to see that those related to our vulnerabilities, because least developed countries are the countries of the world that are vulnerable to certain issues that has been identified by 3 major indexes. So our job is to have a transformational pathway so that we never fall back into those vulnerabilities. So as Mahmud bhai rightly mentioned, there are 2 sessions with regard to, one on trade and commerce, the other on development cooperation. So I would stick to myself, as he mentioned, that about our preparation, meaning domestic capacities to overcome those vulnerabilities. So if you really look at, there are certain structural rigidities and vulnerabilities that are plugging Bangladesh's trajectory, and those were particularly exposed, particularly the fault lines were exposed during the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. And there are also other issues which have been there and which have been really not allowing us to accelerate our process of development, rather inhibiting the process of our development. So I would start from those areas which had been there pre-COVID and which had been exposed during the COVID, and secondly the how part. So what are the issues at stake and how can we really move forward in terms of strategization, not the implementation of it. So we have seen that pre-COVID there are major issue is with respect to diversification, productivity, technological competitiveness, and our share in the global processes. So we have seen that most of our product have concentrated into a narrow product basket. Secondly, there are not enough technological catching up process that would ensure productivity enhancement. Third, there were also issues with respect to that our domestic capacity has not really created enough consumers to consume those products. So there is a consumption deficit as well. Secondly, what we have seen that our private sector contribution to the GDP has remained more or less stagnant. We have also witnessed that our access to capital has been exposed to disarray in financial sector. Then we have also witnessed that what is more required is to have a supply of skilled laborers. So that has also remained at a low rate than many of the countries that we are competing with. Then we have, and I'm sure our doctor friends would enlighten us on why do you need a universal health care and why it is important to have a workforce that delivers and that really provides what we have with the structural bottlenecks. And then during COVID, we have now beginning to question what has been dubbed as resilience. Because if had there been a resilience, then there wouldn't be new poor. So the what that gloss over has been done is now exposed, because we have not seen if the resilience is, in simpler terms, is a coping strategy. So COVID-19, an external shock, has washed away 30 years of progress in terms of poverty, in terms of education, in terms of health. So we have to really have a thought through discussion what was generally said about the resilience of the economy. So that's the issues I broadly, because I was told that I should have to finish in 3 minutes. So another minute. So is our machinery equipped enough to strategize so that we do not really fall back, which is last terminal review? And secondly, and most importantly, because the agenda has to be very domestically owned, whether we move, then we fall the trap of a middle income country, which we exhibit all around the world. And we also witness there is a up and there is a down, like the Latin American trajectory. So these are the issues. The problem is that obviously there is a coordination, but the problem is about complacence because of bad politics as well as bad economics. Bad politics was like, if you are really putting a tag of a basket case for a country which are going through a process of liberation and aspiration, and then you are saying it's a basket case. So that's a bad politics. Simultaneously, the bad economics is that you know there are structural bottlenecks, you know there are systematic failures, and then you say it is a shining example. So that's also a hugely a bad economics. And we have seen that in the name of, particularly coming from the World Bank, calling it Bangladesh paradox without really having thought through understanding of it, and a kind of a glib knowledge over the Bangladesh trajectory. And then we have also seen pundits calling it as a Bangladesh surprise without really looking at what are the drivers of growth. Say for example that, and we have seen how World Bank has been exposed to coming up with a politically motivated agenda like doing business survey and others, which doesn't really create any economic sense. So what we see is basically that we have a trajectory where we are glossing over. And when we are not putting our feet on the ground without really ensuring diversification, competitiveness, productivity growth on the one side of the spectrum, then on the other side of the spectrum to have a population with higher skills and a society that has health, access to health. And simultaneously, when you do not see your institutions really functions, so how do you really create that trajectory? So I am sure my fellow panelists would be really coming up with the ideas that would ensure that trajectory and the transitional pathway of Bangladesh being a developed country, which we all want, because this is a country in South Asia which has shed blood to earn its independence. And this is a country that wants to see that Bangladesh becomes a country that achieves equality, that achieves human dignity, that achieves social justice. So I would stop here. Thank you.